So a couple of questions that have been asked about the Seeker 2 Pro. So I'll just do a quick update. Firstly, some people asked if it's possible to charge the 21700 using Olight's little lithium-ion battery charger. So the one that charges all batteries, this one. Answer is basically doesn't seem to be, because what happens is this little plastic ring prevents this from contacting it properly, so it doesn't actually charge it. I think if you've got a charger that will charge a 21700, it may still work, because I've noticed the little connection point on a lot of those has the little, I guess a divot or something that would touch that, but you'd have to make sure you have that first. The other thing was there was some beam comparisons people asked for. I don't have all of the lights that were requested, but I'll make do with the ones that should have similar throw ratios. So basically with lights, you've got the candela and the lumens. So the peak beam intensity is measured in candela, and I like to have a ratio. So candela to lumens ratio, the higher that number is, the more throwy a torch is, and the lower that number is, the more floody it is. So for example, with the Olight X7, does 9,000 lumens with 28,500 candela, allowing you to throw the light 310 meters. Now that's basically a candela to lumens ratio of 3.167, so let's just say 3. And that means it's really, really floody, so big wide beam. Compare that to the Olight M2X, which only has 1,020 lumens, and it throws that puts out 164,000 candela with that, which gives you a ratio of basically 161. So you look at that tiny little hotspot. So compare the M2X to the X7. So the X7's on the left, M2X on the right. So with that in mind, I'll run the Seeker 2 Pro, and these won't be in high, but that ratio will be the same regardless of the total power, because if you have 9,000 lumens, it doesn't matter how well you collect them through a reflector or whatever, it's still going to have a fair amount of distance based on brute force alone. So being able to throw comes down to reflector design and lumens. But as you just saw earlier, the M2X with only 1,000 lumens throws way further than the X7 with 9,000 lumens. But here's a quick comparison. So on the left, we have and this is only looking at the size of the hotspot, by the way. Don't compare the brightnesses, just the size, because I'm going to use whatever size lets me get them on camera decently. But on the left here, we have the Seeker 2 Pro. On the right is the M2R. Now, the Seeker 2 Pro has a candela to lumens ratio of 4.875, so roughly 5. That's this one. The M2R is basically 7.25, so let's just say 7. So candela to lumens ratio of 5 on the left for the Seeker 2 Pro, and candela to lumens ratio of 7 basically for the M2R. So the M2R is a little bit more throwy than the Seeker 2. Now obviously keep in mind that the M2R will throw to 250 meters. The Seeker 2 Pro only goes to 208 meters. So when I say throwy, I don't mean it throws further, I mean that it's got a tighter hotspot. Now compare that again to another one. This is the H2R Nova, which is on the right now. You can basically see that's a massive hotspot. I'll see if I can brighten it a bit. So the H2R has a ratio of about 2.5. Compare that to the S2 Pro again, which is also about 5. So the X7. So X7 on the right, Seeker 2 Pro on the left. So again, the X7 it's got a candela lumens ratio of about 3, so even more floody than the Seeker. Is there any other lights? As a brief point of discussion, I guess, some people have mentioned a comparison to the ThruNite V6. Now, the ThruNite V6 is very much a thrower of a light, and that one is 1,700 lumens and basically 141,000 candela. That ratio is candela to lumens ratio of 83. So that's basically way closer to the M2X, although the M2X is that ratio of about 160, so it throws way further. But I wouldn't classify that as a similar category of light because it's just such a thrower. The other one somebody mentioned was the TrueNight TC20. So that one is 3800 lumen light, so a little bit brighter than the S2 Pro, and they liked it a bit more because they liked the consistent output, but it is much thicker light. So in terms of the candela to throw ratio, you're looking at about 6.7, or basically let's round it off to about 7. So this Seeker 2 Pro is closer to 5 for its ratio. The type of hotspot you'll see in relation to the total output of light is much closer to what you get on an M2R, because the M2R again is 7.25. So the M2R is a little bit more throwy than your TrueNight TC20, but you're looking at a similar difference. So the hotspot on the right is the M2R. A little bit wider than that would probably be a good approximation. I think that was most of what's been asked so far. If you wanted to see it again, there is your Seeker 2 Pro. If there are any other questions, just ask. But aside from that, I think I've covered pretty much everything that people have been messaging me. Cheers.